being here today. We have a good crowd. I have a limited time with you, but I do want to share a personal story. So I got up this morning fairly early, got dressed, and came into the kitchen, and my daughter was like, "Wow, Dad, you look really good today." I mean, like, what's going on? Because normally I work from home, and I'm in my Atlanta United gear or whatever. And so I was like, well, I've got this big presentation in front of a lot of important people down in Buckhead. She's still kind of looking at me like, it's about security and all this. And she's like, so it's kind of like being a presenter at a panel at DragonCon? And I was like, yeah, it's exactly like that. So if you don't mind, I'd like to at least prove to her that I'm a little cool. And it is very much like DragonCon. So I'm going to just take a quick selfie if you don't mind. It is pretty cool. All right. So now at least my kids will think I'm a little cool. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see if we get the clicker going here. So again, thank you. It's good to be here and have this time to talk to you. Unfortunately, I'm going to start with a topic that's not a lot of fun. And that is data breaches. We've heard a little bit about that today. So we're going to kind of start there. There was a study that was put out last year, and it's really around the cost of data breaches, but there's some interesting data points in there that are going to help drive the conversation today. Now, these numbers, hopefully, are new to you. Maybe you don't have to deal with this, but in general, what we're finding is that, at least in the US, the average cost is $8.2 million, and that's not an insignificant cost, right? And the amount of actual records that are being leaked and whatnot, on average, is 25K. That seems low to me. Now, what's actually interesting about the data is if you dig into it, 55% is actually negligent user behavior, right? This is actually just your normal employees, well-intended, wanting to actually do the right thing. They're just trying to get their work done. And so whether it's just unintended disclosure, or whether it's actually lost devices or documents and things of that nature, they're just trying to do the right thing. Now, on the other hand, right, we still have what it really gets the lion's share, I would say, of the publicity around data breaches, which is around hacking, malicious activity. I think earlier there was a statistic, Bob, and I think it was even you that said like 80% of these breaches start with like phishing. So, and phishing can be on either side of this, right? But at the end of the day, the real hacking and the things that we hear about and get scared about are probably a lot smaller percent. And in fact, if you think about malicious insiders, well, that's still kind of inside. They just have decided that they're going to go do something. So in either case, what we're trying to illustrate here is that there's still, with all the investment that you all have made in bolt-on security tools and all of the things that have cropped up in the industry, things like CASBs and things that are relatively new to the landscape, we're still dealing with this. So it's still a problem. So how can we help? Now, Box, and I know some, if not a good majority of the folks in the room, hopefully know Box. I know I've got some customers in the room. If you're not familiar, happy to talk to you a little bit more in detail at the table outside. But we spend a lot of time kind of seeing this problem and talking about our customers because at the end of the day, we're about content management. We're enabling external collaboration and sharing of content. So the CISOs of the room are usually on the top of their list of who they're concerned with. So my point is that we spend a lot of time with our customers trying to understand these problems. And if I were to sort of put my customers in two specific buckets around this issue of security data breaches, think about, on the one side, I have customers that essentially are sort of under-restricting, right? As the title says, business, and I think earlier today, a lot of the conversations around the conversations with business and risk, but the business, they just need to get their work done, right? They want fast pace, they want less friction, they want to be able to get their job done. So in some cases, security is essentially under-restricting the solutions or the applications, right? And that causes problems, right? Yeah, business, you've got great business agility, but at the end of the day, you're also creating some additional risk. Now on the other side, and I came from financial services, worked at SunTrust, now Truist, got some of my customers in the room, they kind of fall into this bucket, right? A lot of my regulated industries sort of fall into this bucket, where basically you have an over-restriction. So all the security settings are gonna be screwed on tight, and I'm only gonna back that up just a little bit as I need. What happens is that obviously that business agility kind of tips the scale the other way. They're frustrated. They ultimately are going to look for other ways to go around it. Shadow IT was mentioned. So unfortunately, these are things, how do we get this into a better balance? And what we're seeing and what we are really focused on is this trend around cloud provider native DLP, built into the product, not always relying on a bolt-on security tool. Right? So if you think about it, I'll give you one example. Many of you, like if you send an email, you upload a file, you've got all these great security tools, CASB's DLP that are monitoring and all these fancy rules. Well, what happens if you quarantine something? Do you notify that end user that something happened? Do you notify them as a separate email, or is it in the app? In many cases, they don't. What about the person that's supposed to be receiving it, the customer, the partner, who needs that contract? It got quarantined, do they even know? So the problem is these bolt-on tools are obviously designed for protecting that perimeter, but sometimes we're having a hard time. So if we can build more in, not just Box, but other software vendors and solutions, if you can build more of that DLP and that solution inside the product, we think that's going to help. We're going to create a better balance between business and security. And so at Box, what we're trying to do is we have created, or at least doubled down on our product offering, and we have something we call Box Shield. Now, Box Shield, you could say it's an add-on, it's just part of the DNA, but the point is that we're already taking what we do great. I mean, this is not too different than our normal mission statement, that we're really trying to create intelligent, frictionless security for the way we work in the modern world, right? Because right now, we're already partnering with so many different external parties, customers, and stuff like that. We can't change that. We have to work beyond our wall. You heard a lot about that in the cloud. You're doing business in the cloud. There's no other alternative. You can't stay within your four walls at all. You have to be doing this. So, three main points that we're trying to focus on is, okay, so how do we reduce that risk but also maintain that business agility? And we still have to maintain the security and the compliance standards. Box is the most secure and compliant cloud content management, born in the cloud content management solution on the market. I'm happy to debate that at our table. We have all the compliances needed to work in a number of regulated environments. Now we're just going to go and take it another level deep. And then lastly, which I think is really part of the discussion, is around increasing that security consciousness and behavior to our users. Going back to the first slide, right? These unintended disclosures, people are trying to do their job, right? So how do we bring better awareness in the app directly to them? And better education so they're more aware. So this is my overly simplified Box Shield architecture slide. We'll kind of use this to talk through a little bit of some examples and kind of how this works. So the biggest difference, as I mentioned, is that bolt-on security tools that we have in place lack context, right? You have to build complex rules. You have to kind of know ahead of time what you're looking for. Maybe you're using AI and machine learning, but they don't really have context. What I mean by that is that think about Box and sharing and collaborating on files and content, right? So what we look to do is leverage machine learning and AI to build a graph, to basically look at the relationships, look at who I share with, who I actually work with on a daily basis, and create a baseline, create context for what is normal behavior in my product. Because we're the best suited to know that. And then once something we see is anomalous, we are better able to alert. So I'll give you an example. So let's say I'm Mary in marketing, right? And I have access to a bunch of marketing folders, I share with certain partners, and ultimately we create this baseline of what my behavior looks like as Mary in marketing. But one day, I all of a sudden have access to a legal folder and I download a bunch of data from that folder in a short period of time, well, guess what? We have the context. We know that that's an anomalous behavior, so we can alert on that. Beyond that, we can actually do inline data leak prevention as it's happening. Because I'm in the app, I can actually go and maybe say, wait a minute, I'm gonna go turn off your restriction to that folder because I've recognized that as an anomalous behavior. So context is important. Now, one of the other things that drives Shield and makes it happen is classification. So one of the things that we're gonna be doing, and again, going on to this concept of bolt-on security tools, a lot of you have investments in classification tools to go crawl your networks, classify data. It's not an easy thing to do. So we're making an investment to do more of that in the product. When you upload a file to Box, we'll be able to auto-classify using machine learning and AI, but also enable you to do some semi-automated, like if it goes into a legal folder, then everything in that folder is going to be classified a certain way. And based on that classification, we can drive very specific things in the product, like maybe restricting how long the shared link can live. Maybe your corporate policy is 30 days. Maybe if it's classified as confidential, maybe that's 7 days or 2 hours, whatever. But we can do that automatically in the app with Shield. With classification too, going back to the end user, how do we train that end user? Well, they get immediate notification. They don't have to wait for maybe an email that comes minutes, hours later saying that something was quarantined. They'll go try to do something. It's like, wait a minute, this is classified as confidential. Here are all the bullet points of what that means. I can push my policy actually to my users in the app to better educate them. They become better educated. They can have better decision making when they go to share something, and hopefully prevent some of these unintended data leaks. Now, we also plan to work with malicious activity as well. So we'll do other things in our app to sort of recognize, hey, a file is being downloaded from Saudi Arabia. I'm not trying to pick on Saudi Arabia, just the first one that came to mind. Whatever country, and you can create those lists. Maybe you have your own specific lists of countries and regions that you want to make sure that if something gets downloaded from that region, I want to know. And I want to know in the app as it's happening so that I can take action instead of waiting. So this might be, again, slightly a gross oversimplification, but if I'm kind of to bring this back, the idea is that having vendors like Box, you all should be sort of looking at them and asking them, what are you doing in your app to build better security, better DLP, however you describe it. For us, we're unstructured content. We manage content and files. So when I think about the things like classification of DLP, that's important. So we just are taking it upon ourselves to look at this trend and say, we need to build more of that. We're still going to partner and work. I mean, we've gone to great lengths to integrate with all of the best of breed security tools out there. So the CASBs, the DLPs, most likely they already have an integration with Box. But as we said, they're all looking for event streams. They're looking for something as it happened, after it uploads. This is going to help us bring that reaction time down to almost as it's happening, if not while it's happening. Train our users a little bit better so that they actually see what they're doing has consequences or makes them think about it before they go share that. I have this information saying because it's classified a certain way, our company says these are the things we've got to be concerned about and empower them to make better decisions. So I actually have 1 minute left, so I feel like I'll give it back to you. And thank you very much for listening today.